So kind of some of the tools that are available for Windows servers or Windows systems in general. The one that we're going to use and kind of talk about is FTK Imager, which, if you guys aren't familiar with, I think you should become familiar with, because it's a free tool, it's a free imaging tool, and it works really well. They also have a light version, which allows you to basically have their, which is what you'll use here, which allows you to run it off of a thumb drive and stuff like that. But it's also good for like local analysis, like I just did there, to like open up files and stuff like that. There's also forensic acquisition utilities, which is basically George Garner has ported DD and Netcat to Windows versions that exist. That work basically the same way that the Linux versions do. You also have Helix and Kane, which have kind of a Windows side to them, which allow you. I think Helix and Kane both use FTK Imager as like their imaging platform. I know that Helix used to. I don't know. To be honest, I never used those for acquisition capabilities, but like they exist, right? They also have like I think some automated like scripts that run and gather information off the systems. They're there. You also have tools like F-Response and Encase Enterprise, which are basically designed to do. They're designed more for remote collections, so they actually use like a servlet or an agent that runs on the system and allows you access to the physical disks and things like that, and in memory, I think in most cases. That you can then basically pull back over the wire and something like that, right? I've never used Encase Enterprise, but I've used F-Response. They work very similar, right? I think that, and they're good tools for that perspective. And they're also good for enterprise environments if you're kind of tackled with that. So some of the considerations that you need to take into account is dealing with like full volume or container encryption, right? They're pretty prevalent on Windows, but any operating system really. You also need to kind of consider the Windows password lock, that you can lock a system, so that can prevent you interactive access to the desktop. There are methods to get around that, right? And primarily the FireWire attack, which allows, I think originally developed or identified by Anthony Borleau. Borleau, is that right? In any event, he basically found that FireWire, which is on probably all of your laptops here, is that it allows for direct memory access, right? That the protocol that it uses allows you to get direct memory access, which means that you can access, image, and in some cases manipulate memory through the FireWire bus, right? So this is a mechanism by which you could actually edit memory and basically change the flag in memory to say, like, now it's unlocked, for the most part, for lack of a better explanation. Or you could actually edit the credentials that were being used on the system. There's also kind of some changes in versions and primarily in kind of Vista, Windows 7, and 2008, dealing with UAC. Anyone know what UAC is? With Universal Access Control or User Access Control? One of those. In any event, what it basically does is, like, if you have anybody here have Windows 7? Is there like operating system? When you click on an application, it'll sometimes pop up and say, like, do you want this application to run or whatever, right? I forget what it is, right? Do you want to allow this application to run? That's user access control. And that's basically, like, it's elevating, like, that application requires elevated privileges. So it's saying, do you want to allow elevated privileges to that application? And this actually becomes important, and I don't have a Windows 7 VM to demonstrate on, I don't think. But one thing that I want to kind of point out is that, like, if you are on a Windows 7 system, you notice that when I was on the Windows XP system, I basically just clicked on the command prompt, and like I was administrator, right? Like the user that I had was an administrator. And I think that was the default in Windows XP, is like everybody was an administrator. In Windows 7, that's not the case, right? So when you want to image memory, you need to open up the command shell that you're going to run the memory imaging tool as an administrator, right? And that basically means you right-click and go run as administrator.